Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me for this episode of the Mindrise podcast. I'm your host, Bailey Fruman, psychotherapist, coach, author of Own Your Power, as well as founder at Mindrise. Today, we're going to be joined by special guest, Tara Romano. And today's topic is going to be getting out of comparison and into alignment. You're going to love Tara. Tara is a serial entrepreneur. She's a performer, a teacher, a personal development junkie, and I can say without hesitation, she is an unshakable optimist. She's dedicated to helping you to unleash and let go so that you can become the best version of yourself. Tara has an insatiable curiosity about what it means to live life to the fullest. Whether it's hosting Tone Tease masterclasses around the world, speaking at conferences, or hosting her Your Life Unleashed events, Tara helps you to move through those limiting beliefs, letting you know that being perfectly imperfect is something to celebrate. I invite you to dive in and join me in this conversation with Tara Romano as we talk about getting out of comparison and into alignment. All right. Hi, my friend. I'm so excited to have you with us. And it's funny because we hopped on and then we've been on about 30 seconds and just hit record because we were about to jump into all the things that everyone on the podcast needs to hear.
And I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do this. I'm ready to go.
Because that's what it's about. You know, we created the podcast to have conversations that a lot of times people don't want to go there. And I also wanted to create the podcast because I feel, and I got lots of feedback, that people see your Instagram following or your Facebook following, or they see a YouTube and they think, oh, you know, you were just born exactly like that with, you know, so many followers. And I think that it's really important that we have conversations about the story that it takes to get us to where we are now. Because, you know, that doesn't happen overnight.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. So with our topic for today being self-love with the lovely Tara Romano, she's the perfect person to have this conversation with because Tara has always, to me, the person who was not afraid to talk about the things that other people maybe didn't want to talk about or put out there or shake their ass, like all the things. So Tara, I'm curious for you, like, what's been your journey to self-love? What's been your journey to that place of self-acceptance? Like, why is this your platform?
I think like it's always a journey. Like, I'm still going through it. I think we go through it. We'll always be going through it. It's just something that there's no destination to. I feel like when it comes to personal development and mindset, it's just a forever thing. It's just like literally just like going to the gym. You know, it's a muscle that you're going to be working on day in and day out. And some days and some weeks and some months are going to seem seamless and just so in flow. And then sometimes, like I'm sure many people can say during the pandemic, has seemed really resistant and you feel like you're struggling and you feel like you're low. But I just think it's the roller coaster of life. You know what I mean? That's what it is. And I feel like that's what self-love is, because you're going to have relationships and experiences that like fill you up so much more. And then, you know, certain times where it teaches you the lessons that you needed to know at that moment. Right. So I think for me, like I speak all the time whenever I'm doing a talk or on a podcast. My journey really began when I found personal development, or like it found me, which was like about 11 years ago. Now, I'm 43 now, but when I was 19, my sister gave me a Marianne Williamson prayer book and cassette tapes. I know you know about cassette tapes.
Oh yeah, girl, definitely.
So I remember putting these cassette tapes in. And for those of you who don't know Marianne Williamson, she's all about self-love and healing and, you know, mindfulness. Another language to me. I did not understand anything about what it was saying. So but it wasn't until decades later that it started to make sense. So I feel like if you stumble upon some words and it doesn't resonate with you, maybe it's not your time. I don't think it was my time then to really understand. But anyway, when I found personal development and I started going to these events and people were saying I could be, do, or have anything I wanted, I had never really heard that before. And not like my parents weren't supportive, but it wasn't like you could have anything you wanted. So I kept going back to these events and back. And then I started going to women's events, and then I started speaking at them. And, you know, the journey of that was just wow, because I think for me is I showed up in the uncomfortableness over and over and over again. And I continue to. It's a, you know, social media is so interesting because it's such a beautiful space for us to all connect and be able to express ourselves in such an amazing way and however we want. However, it is, and at least this has been for me, it's just been a place of comparison and like thinking you're not enough mode, you know. And then again, that's also, it has been for me such a gift, a blessing and a curse, to be able to grow and move through certain past traumas, and just to really understand that anything that I desire really is within me. And if I think I want something because I'll feel happy in the getting of, it's really not the truth, because you can have those feelings anytime you want.
Right. And I think that you bring up a good point. It's that I'll be happy when, right? I'll be happy when I've achieved this, whether it's a physical goal, a mental, emotional goal, career goal. And it's tricky because in many ways it feels like a delayed gratification, but I also think it takes us out of presence, right? Like, how can you be present when you're so far down the road? And that's one of the things that you had said, when we were prepping for today, was learning to love yourself in the now and on the way to our goals. Because that's a both right there. That's not an either or. So Tara, like, can you speak to that? Can you speak to what it really means to, like, walk in the mirror and be like, hey, checking you out, right? Alongside of, I'm working toward this, right?
Ooh, this is good. So, and just to understand anyone listening, like, you don't get here overnight. And honestly, I feel like certain times of your life, you just feel better than others, right? So it's not the judgment. And I love goals. I'm all about vision boards, action boards, visualization, writing things down. I feel I love visualization because I think we can write like what we want to be, feel, do, have, experience, the type of people we want around us, the conversations we want to have, the type of person that we want to be. And I actually do a visualization in my Tone Tease class, and and maybe I'll do it in a bit. But I feel like, think about a goal that you want or something that you're looking to strive for, and the feeling that you'll get behind it. The thing is like, you can really have that feeling anytime you want. And honestly, like, and this is what I have to share too. So I started, when I found personal development, is when I started network marketing. Never wanted to be a network marketer in my entire life, ever. I just didn't like the word. But as I started to learn more about it, I became really passionate about it. So to me, like, having all the followers, the income, the travel, like the attention, and just to let you know, during this time I had started a YouTube channel as well. So much was happening for me that I never expected. So I never really knew about what alignment was, right? Like back 10 years ago, I don't know what alignment and manifestation meant, but I really know now that I was in true alignment back then, because when I stepped into YouTube and shared choreography for my dance fitness, when I was sharing about network marketing, the product that I love, and sharing on social media, I really wasn't looking at what anyone else was doing. And when I did, it was because I was looking for inspiration. I'm like, oh, cool. They do that. I want to do that too. And then, so I just put it to action. So once I created the income, the following, the getting invited all over the world to dance, then once I started speaking and doing all these things, and I was still not happy, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I have all the things, all the goals crossed off, like the physique, the boyfriend, and I would wake up feeling completely empty. And I'm like, okay. Then I felt guilty for feeling that way, because I'm like, I'm healthy and I have all this stuff. I'm like, what is wrong with me? So I tell you this because I really think we're number one, a microwave world where we want things right away. And we're very visual, where we see beautiful people doing these extravagant things, traveling and filters and you name it. But like, I promise you, and I'm sure many celebrities can say the same thing, the things will not fulfill you if you're not fulfilled in yourself. It's just so the truth. Like, and I've experienced it myself, and I've seen and spoken to a lot of other people who I'm like, I put them on this pedestal, yet like that they've never asked to be on, But I'm like, there's no way you can feel that way. Why would you feel that way? If you looked like that, had this, like, that's just ridiculous. But we're humans, and we're in a human experience, and we're allowed to feel however we want, because it's a part of our healing. It's a part of our reason that we're on this earth. So hopefully that answered part of your question.
Well, no, I'm picking up what you're putting down, because I think that, and this is why I love the behind the scenes of like, okay, what did it really take to have the YouTube, the following, the events? I mean, for many of you, you know, whether you know Tara or you don't, Tara is, I mean, multifaceted entrepreneur. I mean, she wears so many different hats. And one of the things that I think is important is that people can see you or see someone, you know, who's like you and say, oh, they've had it figured out all along. And one of the things that I've appreciated about our conversations over the years has been like, actually, I'm still figuring it out. But, you know, let's talk a little bit about that, because the truth is, when we're looking at the behind the scenes, there are some of the dark night of the souls where we're just like, shit, am I really doing what I'm supposed to be doing? Like, am I really on my right path? You know, have you found that that has happened for you along the way of the last 11 years, of the last 43 years, that you're just like, oh, am I on my right path? And what are some of the signs that let you know that you were? And then sometimes when you weren't.
Such goodness. And I feel like oh my gosh, I'm like every day. Not really, but so, all right, let me just go back. So this pandemic, really knocked me on my butt, like emotionally. So I am someone who has been traveling for the past 7 years. I don't think that there's been 1 month of my entire 7 years that I have not been on a plane or in an airport or doing an event or teaching, dancing, all of it. I'm just go, 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 go. Now I also have been coaching with everyone and anyone who would take me, standing on my head, like NLP, like the whole, like whatever you can think of. So, however, and I actually even went to, like, once I found out what trauma work was, which is about 3 or 4 years ago, I went to somewhere in Arizona. It wasn't for me, but basically I'm telling you this because I would literally try everything. I started therapy when I was 10 years old. So this has been my path to healing, or in understanding what healing means and understanding why we're on this earth, right? So let me go back. What was the specific question? This happens to me often when I'm on podcasts.
Well, and I also ask like 11-part questions. So it happens.
Like write things down sometimes because I forget, right?
But what we're talking about is like, okay, there's the Tara that we see on the internet, which is also a really, really true Tara that I can attest to, because Tara's putting it all out there. But I want to talk about the behind the scenes. I want to talk about the dark nights of the soul, the am I on the right paths, the WTFs, the like, I am not doing the right thing. Oh my gosh, that like pull the ripcord, those times when you doubted yourself. And I'm curious, like, were there signs along the way that had you saying, oh, I am pointing in the right direction? Or were there big, like, flashing red lights that just like, actually, you've hit a wrong turn, my friend?
Yeah. And have you ever made a decision and knew it was the wrong decision, but went through anyway because you thought that's what you had to do or what you're supposed to do? So this is an example. So going back to alignment, when I was saying I was so in alignment when all of this was happening and I didn't even know that I was. I lived in California for a few years, and I remember I was always a yes person, which I think we should be yes people sometimes, but I did it because, all right, people see me, they're noticing me, I have to do these things. So when I came home one time to Jersey, I literally did 3 dance fitness events in 3 different states within 24 hours. Like it was, and I remember I was like, but I'm like, I can't say no. And I remember being hysterical in my car, like, what am I doing? Like I was doing all these things because I wanted to stay seen. Cause I still didn't feel good enough. Like these people wanted me. Like, how dare would I say no? And I'm saying that because think about a decision, like when someone's asking you to do something, like how it feels in your body. And guys, I really didn't understand this until during the pandemic. So that's where where all the talking led me back to. So when I was stripped of everything from the pandemic, of all the things I was doing, I was like, oh my gosh, now what? Now, not that I was never with myself, because when I was traveling, I was always doing things alone, but I didn't have the coffee shop to go to. I didn't have to rush here and there. There wasn't all the planning. And I felt like, what do I do now? Everything that I did was a live event. So it's like, even though I was doing all of this work, I still had a lot of healing. And then putting everything on social media, which triggered me in the first place. But why it wasn't triggering me when I was doing all these things, because I always had something to post, because I felt like I needed to be doing something in order to feel enough. Always. And I didn't realize that until just this past year. So when I tell you, I went deep, 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 deep into like stuff that I needed to heal more of. And if you're new to healing, this might not resonate with you as much, but I invite you to just be open to like, whatever you're feeling. So going back to think about when someone asks you to do something. And if you're very new into the entrepreneur space, which is a very challenging space, because I feel like it brings up your stuff no matter what, like whatever's going on in your life is going to come up in your business, trust me, and in your relationships. So think about how it feels in your body. I ignored when it felt like butterflies or just like that gut thing. So now this past 6 months, I've been making decisions that are less of my ego, because I think I should be doing them so people don't forget me. Like, don't forget about Tara. She's still doing all of this work and all this stuff. Like, and I did it, and I started making decisions that felt good to me. And right now what feels good to me is just like hanging out with my dog and my new fiance, and just like going to classes, like, which is so weird for me, because I always felt like if I'm not going to these events or doing these online events, like online's not my thing. And I struggled with it. And I would see people during the pandemic thrive. So going back to your question, like the behind the scenes still happens when you're an entrepreneur. Like there's going to be certain seasons of your life and your business that are going to feel so effortless. But we're not going to grow unless we have those challenging times. And like, you're always going to have those challenges. I just think sometimes we get better at like not letting it bring us down. So now I've actually noticed such a change in me. Things that would have made me jealous or triggered me even 3 months ago are not even fazing me right now. But because I was willing to really get deep into me and my soul and move the ego and understand why I want the things I want in my life and in my business.
Right. And you make a good point. It's like, I think that's a good demarcation point for understanding how much growth that we have actually had, is when the old stuff that would have triggered us or that would have upended us or that would have taken us like out, when we can witness it and we can even witness our feelings, right? And then decide how we want to respond and react to them. And it's interesting because and I'll get a little geeky here because many of you guys know I'm a psychotherapist and I love how the brain is wired and how people are wired, but we have different parts of our brain. And if we were to break them down pretty easily into our reptilian brain, our mammal brain, and our human brain, our reptilian brain, like if you walk outside and there's a lizard, that lizard is like, peace out, I'm out of here, right? And that's that fight or flight response. Then mammal is more like a deer, where it's contemplative, taking back some past experiences to then make its decisions moving forward. And our human brain is really like diving deep, contemplation, logic, thinking things through, our emotional space, and putting it all into the soup that makes our decisions and how we show up in the world. But I think that sometimes when we are either choosing not to do the work or haven't done the work, or life just hasn't brought us to this next lesson, that sometimes we can sit in that reactive, that reptilian brain, that fight or flight response more often than when we are doing the work and we're like, actually, like, how does that feel in my body? And I think to the point in which you were also talking about is like, what am I making it mean about me, right? Because we could go down that rabbit hole of how much we suck. Right. So, one of the things you said was like learning to love yourself. And I like that there was an ing on that, because that's not just like, I don't know, Tara, what do you think? Like, it's a decision, right? But it's also an active practice.
Self-love.
Yeah. Like learning to love yourself. It's like, yes, it's like this decision. I think that it's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to love myself, but it's like abs. You got to do the sit-ups every day. Like it's like brushing your teeth. You got to do it every day. It's not just like, and now I'm done.
Yeah. So I think it's going to look different for everyone, which of course it should. And I think the self-care comes into self-love, and I'm actually really, really great at self-care. So I have to just preface this with that. I'm a dog mom, but I actually have so much respect, utmost respect for moms. Like moms of children, I because I can just imagine, like, sometimes I come home, I'm like, how do moms do that? Like, how do they get sick? You know, so I'm just acknowledging every mother, and I'm going to say fathers too, but like, I just have a little bit special part in my heart for moms. So, and I just did actually a self-love challenge. I'm doing another one starting in February. So, you know, it was more like a course, and it's like, it's a practice. So we had little things that we did like throughout the week, and I gave like tools, and some worked for others, some didn't work, some resonated. But so it's all about like making time for yourself. That's like number one. If you can't make time, if you're not willing to find the time. So I brought up the moms because I feel like I hear it so much. I don't have time, and I can really appreciate that. But you do have time. I feel like you have to decide if you want to make the time, right? Because if you're not good, I promise you no one else is going to be good, or maybe they will for a while, but like how you feel is so important. So it doesn't take like a whole hour every day for self-care, self-love. It could just be a few little exercises. It could be just you looking in the mirror. We did mirror work. We did breath work. There's meditation, there's reading, there's journaling, there's moving, there's dancing, there's what you're dressing like. So I'll do that little exercise that I do. And if you guys want to do it with me, it'll literally just take a minute. And this is how long it takes to like just get into it. It's about changing state, which let me talk about that before we get into that. So changing state. So like, think about how you feel when you don't love yourself, or when you're not like feeling your best. Like, what is your body language like? Like, what are you sitting like, right? You're usually hunched over, you're closed off. Like maybe you haven't showered, you don't have you don't feel good in your clothes, right? So now I want you to like, wherever you're at, if you're driving, clearly don't close your eyes unless you want to pull over. So just close your eyes for a second, and like, you know, sitting on the floor, standing up, and just, I want you to just think about a minute of the person that like either you've been before or you're striving to be. And this is you at your highest self, right? The most amazing version of you. Like, what do you look like? Like, what are you looking like right now at your highest self? Like your happiest, most joyful, sexiest self. How are you standing? What does your hair look like? What does your face look like? Do you have lipstick on? Did you do your makeup? What are you wearing? How do you feel about your clothes? Are you putting on something that you normally wouldn't wear but really want to wear? How's your body moving? Where are you going? How are you walking? Are you walking fast? Are you walking slow? Are you looking at people in the eyes? Are you saying hello? Are you maybe like walking confident and like brushing your hair to the side, smiling at people? Well, can't really smile at people right now, but you can smile with your eyes. Who's around you? How are you talking to other people? How are you talking to yourself? Just see her so clearly. Like, what jewelry is she wearing? Is her nails done? Just see her for a minute. Breathe her in. See her when she's doing what she loves. What is she doing? Is she reading? Is she just spending some extra time with coffee and a book or a magazine in the morning? Think about all of those things. Now take a deep breath. Put a big light around her, and then let it go and just shake it out. So and the reason why I get so detailed on hair and clothing, because that's a part of us. Like, we're women, like, to feel sexy and sensual and being really in touch with our body. And it's very much a lot of the work that I do is so important. So like, even the mirror work we do, it takes 30 seconds to a minute to like look at yourself in the mirror, like, and looking right in your eyes and just forgetting about the external and just knowing that there's this beautiful soul. And we are all souls. Like, everything else is just external. And like, it's true when people say like you have such a light about you, because your energy will speak before, you know, anything else. And it's you know, there's so much science behind it. I won't get into that here, but like, you really have to visualize who you want to show up as in order to do that. And there's so many exercises to do it. But just like you said, Bailey, about like doing the work on your abs, it's the same thing. You have to do the work day in and day out. And I promise it's more of the consistency of the increments every single day of doing simple exercises like this. It doesn't have to take a long time. It's the compound effect over time of how you're able to get to where you want to be.
That's a really good point. It doesn't happen overnight. And I think you're right. We have a silver bullet, quick fix, microwave culture that lends itself to us expecting this stuff to happen overnight. And then, which you talk about a lot, when it doesn't happen overnight, then we head down the compare and despair trap, where we start comparing ourselves, our perception of other people, and what they have, how they look like, that we detach from ourselves. We forget who we are. We forget that best self. And it's funny, even as right now, as I closed my eyes, this is so perfect. And I pictured that version of myself. Do you know where I was? I was wearing that black leather skirt on stage at the Your Life Unleashed event.
It's so funny. I know we both wore leopard that day. I loved it.
Oh, yeah. We did. But we have these higher self versions in our mind. So Tara, why do we compare ourselves to everyone around us? Why do we need external sources of validation? Why are we not doing the darn thing and connecting like right here with this person?
I'm going to give you my version of the answer, because I feel like I was asking myself this question all last year. I really was I was like, all of this work that I did, like, how am I at this place again right now? But it's just another layer of yourself, in my opinion. Like, if we're not growing and learning, so we wouldn't know about wanting joy and happiness if we didn't experience pain or frustration. So, there's a quote that I use all the time: action neutralizes negative emotion. So if we're feeling like frustration or anger or sadness, like, take some sort of action to get to the better feeling, to bridge the gap. However, I have learned that I don't think that there's good or bad feelings. I think that there's just feelings. I think that we have such an attachment on not wanting to ever feel bad, but like, you have to let that out. You have to release those feelings because they need to come out of you. So I feel like, no, we don't think about that. When we cry or are frustrated or jealous, like, we automatically think that there's something wrong with us. But I think it's acknowledge that feeling to know that something needs to be healed. So why do we compare? I think that there's a number of reasons. There could be trauma from when we were younger, like things that we see more of, people that we're around, because the things that trigger me might not trigger you. And like all of our friends, I have 2 friends that like, I actually said that I want to come back in my next life as them, because nothing phases them. They don't get jealous. Like, they don't get like they're just very in their body. And I'm like, what it must be like to be like that. Right. But then I wouldn't be who I am. And I feel like a lot of what I share helps other people. But I think that, again, we feel that we will feel better or be enough or be whole in the getting of the things that other people have, but it's just not the truth. And I think it's just part of our path and understanding why. Like, I think it's a personal journey to understand why you feel that way. And like, if you're going to decide to learn from it, or just like sit in it. So briefly, like, when I first started on this journey of network marketing and being an entrepreneur and like traveling, I wasn't comparing. And then all of a sudden, when I started to do the websites and the emails and the funnels, all of a sudden I had this fear of like people not noticing me anymore. And I had to be this person. And honestly, I got in trouble when I did that, because I spent a lot of money working with the wrong people. I spent a lot of time feeling miserable. I was looking at everyone else, and I spent a long time I was like, all of a sudden I was like, what am I actually doing? I forgot why I was doing the things I was doing in the first place. There's so many different ways you can build your business. And like, I feel like when the pandemic happened, everything was online and people were telling you, this is the time, and, telling you what you should be doing. And I don't think it was in any harmful way, but like, if you weren't in that space of wanting to like put everything online, it might've made you feel really overwhelmed, like it did me. Cause I'm like, I need a second, but I felt so rushed to do all these things. So I feel like I'm going off a little bit on a tangent, but basically, to get back to the question, like, I think that like, it's a personal journey. And if you're experiencing this in your life or in your business, just know that it's there for a lesson for you.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you make a great point that it's a lesson. It's there for you. And I think many times we have this perception that this is happening to me. And it's not happening to you. When you really look back, and this is one of my favorite exercises to do, is to really like look back at the times when you've been face down in the dirt, and think about the times that you've stood up anyway, despite your frustration, despite the WTFs of what was happening in your life. Right? I think that we look to try and get that rise again energy when we're in a challenging situation about the challenging situation that we're in. And I think that that's kind of the wrong way to go about it. We have to look at like, let's use that rear view mirror perspective. It's not about living in the past, but rather like, let's look at those victories that we have had, those times that we've, been challenged and have really decided how to get in alignment for ourselves, decided what was our yes and what was our no, and to let the things fall away that weren't serving us. And sometimes it has to do with that internal head story, that noise, that comparison, that should, that what if, and instead like letting that all fall away so then we can get back to who we are. But to also know and trust, and I think you exemplify this in a beautiful way, is that we're always evolving. Who I was last week isn't who I am today, and it shouldn't be, right? It shouldn't be. So I'm curious, Tara, what's next for you? Everyone, because I hear what you're saying. Everyone's like pushing for like online and like new year, new you and all those things. But like, since you have been taking the time to heal and to go within and to say like, this is what I want. How would you fill in the blank? I want. Like, what's unfolding for you?
I just want to live my life right now. You know what? I've worked really hard my whole entire life, and I feel like I never truly enjoy like what I've created. And I feel like I always say I want time to just enjoy, which I do enjoy life all the time, but I don't. I do have little goals with my businesses and things like that, but like I'm just being as present as possible. I honestly don't know what is next for me. Like I definitely miss live events. Like they're just like connecting at a soul level is everything to me. We actually just had a couple of mini Your Life Unleashed events, which was such a blessing. But it's definitely different to do all of this during a pandemic. But it's taught me so much. So I just feel like I'm taking it day by day right now. I definitely want more dance in this year. I want more choreography. I might be doing some more Tone Tease online because that's like that sexy dance is such a big part of me. And I'm like, I didn't do a lot of it last year because I just wasn't in a very creative mode. But just like serving women and sharing like is just going to always be in me. But like as a goal for a business, I don't really have one right now, and I'm completely fine with it. Just like showing up daily and just doing whatever feels good. I feel like that, like doing what feels good is definitely in the forefront.
Well, it's like sister speaks for me because I hear what you're saying. I've also been very go, 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 accomplish all the time. That frankly, like sometimes the biggest lesson, the biggest gift I can give myself, the hardest thing to do is to be present, to not force and aspire to, because I'm really good at dangling the carrot and run to that goal. So it resonated for me a lot when you were just saying, earlier, how you would go from one live event to another live event. And I'm sure this can resonate for lots of people who are listening. When you keep yourself so tucked in the busy of life that we forget to feel ourselves, who we are and what we want. And we detach, or we don't even know who the hell we are, to be honest. Like a lot of times that happens. So yeah, I mean, that definitely resonates for me, Tara, that practically like the biggest work that you're about to do is to not force a doing of something.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like this is such a fine line because there's going to be so many different seasons in your business. I'm going to just talk business right now because I think we're in this new age world of like manifestation and visualization, which I'm all about. But I also think that there is a hustle mode time for you in your business as well. And I think that like, of course, not everything that we do in business is going to feel good. We're not going to want to show up on social media. We're not going to want to do certain things. Certain things you kind of have to do if you want to move forward in your business. However, like, and I think this is very like personal too, like we only know like the right or wrong things to do. Like we are the only person who knows in that specific moment when the experience or the opportunity comes up, like if it resonates or not. But we're not always going to make the right decision, but like, it doesn't mean that it's the wrong decision. It's just a decision. It's just going to be a part of your story. So just know that like, if you're new to business, like I'm not telling you to sit back and just do what feels good, because that might not be your season right now. And maybe who you need to follow is someone who's going to be like pushing you and stepping out of your comfort zone. So like, I feel like I've lived my entire life in this masculine, even though I have a lot of feminine energy when I dance, but that's why I want more dancing in my life. I've lived so much of my life in the masculine, which is so good for me because it's brought me to all these places. And right now for me, it's more of like, you know what, I'm going to do what feels good and like create more and like not push. Like if I don't want to do emails, like I'm not doing them because I have multiple businesses and I've created that over time. So I don't necessarily have to. But if you're in a mode where you're trying to figure out, should I do text message? Should I do email? Should I do network marketing? Should I do this business? Should I coach? You know, that's going to be a decision you have to make, right? So I just want to be very clear on that, because I think a lot of the times we're like, I'm going to manifest this, which I think we can, but in order to do that, you have to take some sort of action, right?
Oh yeah, girl. I'm always saying, okay, let's pray and move our feet. We got things to do. Because you're right. It is for all of us, male, female, however you gender identify, we all have masculine and feminine energy within us. And that masculine is the get shit done. And our feminine is that like, let's feel into it. Let's pontificate. Let's just kind of like chill. And we need both, but you're right. Sometimes we need to be in that hustle mode. So before we wrap up, I want to ask you, because you used a word earlier in our interview, and I think that this word definitely sticks out for me, is you talked about alignment. So for you, what are some of the qualities of alignment? How do you know that you're in alignment? How do you define alignment? Like what lets you know that you are aligned?
I feel like when you don't have all that noise in your head, like I'm in fully expressed alignment when I'm teaching dance. Like there's just no way around it, behind it. When I'm up on stage speaking, like something else comes over me. I have to prepare a lot though, because like I'm not one who just goes on stage and I'm like, speak through me, like source speak through me. It's just not how I work. But like I'm fully aligned, or you can notice it when you're not overthinking, when you feel just so good and happy. Like when you're done doing something, you have more energy than when you first went. Like now, let me just tell you, speaking for me, I was like deathly afraid. I would cry hysterically before I would go on stage sometimes, like years back, but I would do it anyway, because when I would get off stage or when I was done teaching, there was this energy that came over me that I couldn't even explain. Like we are energy beings. Again, I will not get into the science of it, but like we just are. And that's why I say like, so I was actually thinking about you, Bailey, when I was just saying your energy speaks before you do, because when I first saw you walk into Convention Hall, that one event that I randomly spoke at, I saw you walk in the room. I'm like, I feel like she's important. Like, and I say it like that was the first thought that came to my head. I'm like, I feel like she's important. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just feel like she has something to say. And like, hence, like we've collaborated a ton of times, and that's just what you portray, and it's beautiful. So I feel like you can recognize it in yourself. Like when you're doing things that like you feel happy doing, like when I help other women, like that self-love course that I created, it just honestly came to me. And the whole time I was doing it with these women, I had this energy, like, and I was doing, like Zooms at 9:00 at night. Like I'm like having tea and reading a book at 9:00 at night. Right. But when I was done, I was so filled up. Like when I'm serving people, when I'm helping them, like I'm in alignment. So think about the energy in your body when you're doing something and you're done that feels good, or when you're not, when have a lot of noise in your head, or when you don't. To me, that's alignment. And I feel like when you can get to that place more than not, that's when things come to you, but you have to do some sort of action to be in alignment, you know? So, yeah, that would be my Reader's Digest version.
Right. So for everyone who's listening, there are lots of places that you can find Tara, and we will put them all in the show notes, but Tara is also going to be sharing with us her self-love workbook, which I'm really excited about. You want to tell us a little bit about it, Tara?
Yeah, what I found for the women, and I actually I'm redoing the whole course kind of thing, because I felt like I was giving them too much. So I'm like, let me just give a bunch of tools and you guys can go through them whenever you want. I think writing and journaling is just such a great tool, but not everyone really likes to do it. So there's just a lot of fun little exercises for you to utilize and like write down things. And I just think like having a tool like that to kind of express your thoughts, and it's guided too. So it's just something really fun to do, like, and it doesn't take long.
Awesome. Awesome. So we'll make sure we get that to everybody in the show notes. And you can definitely check out Tara at TaraRomano.com and Tone Tease at ToneandTease.com. I want to close with, I don't know what you're reading right now, but I read like 6 books at once. My brain, it just, and then there's Audible, and I'm just like flipping through Audible. It's dangerous. But a girlfriend of mine got me this book. Have you read it? The new book from Hoda, and it's this just speaks to me. And each day there's a different day with like a quote and a little story, and I absolutely love it. It's a great way to ground and to start your day, because I also think that when we talk about alignment, it is taking that time for yourself. And what are the practices? Not everybody's practices are going to be the same. We need to read, we need to journal. Frankly, your own practices might not be the same. I don't want to journal every day. I don't. Yeah. Some days I'm just like, yep, where's my like list of what I have to get to the grocery store? Because that's about as much as I'm writing.
Yeah.
And other days I'm working on a book, But I'm going to read you the quote from today, because I think it so wraps us up in a beautiful way when we're talking about self-love. What's broken can be mended. What hurts can be healed. And no matter how dark it gets, the sun is going to rise again.
Such goodness. Love it.
Right.
Beautiful.
Because that's the thing. And when it comes to self-love and self-acceptance, it's understanding that the sun will rise again, and that we're not broken, and that there's always a season for healing.
Amen. Amen. Like raising my hands for that one. That was a perfect way to end it.
All right, my friend, thank you so much for joining us today. And again, everybody hop over the show notes, check out our friend Tara. She's amazing. And do yourself a favor, follow her on Instagram, because I swear half the time I'm peeing my pants on some of the real estate. It's really funny.
Yeah, fun. I feel like you're so much fun. You're amazing.
Well, and of course, your pup, you also post the pup, which is also good stuff. All right, my friend. Congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.